Hello everybody, Buddy Webb, Midland, Texas. This is going to be a super interesting video today. We're going to be talking about one of the secret police, specifically Matt Davis, as the name of the video, says, a police officer bragging about stealing evidence in a murder attempt. Okay, I'm gonna go over that, but right now I want to talk about the secret police. Okay, and real quick before we even get started on that. Okay. First of all, secret police are illegal. That's what Nazi Germany had, And basically what happened here is after I was ambushed and shot with my phone lines cut, crawled out, to save my life. I come back from the hospital 10 days later and I found pictures on my security camera of pictures of these police in my home, okay? And which is expected because there was a murder attempt here. But when I ordered the police report, then I noticed that there was no police report showing police in my home. What I didn't know at that time was that they were illegally withholding the police report because it was incriminating. So I had pictures of police and I didn't have any names, okay? And so I took these pictures and here they are right here. And actually that's just a compiled set that I took the pictures and I emailed them to the chief of police and to the sheriff and to the mayor and the city council and even Attorney General Paxton, just all kinds of people. And I'm letting everybody know what's going on here, that, I have these police I can't get identified. Here was this murder attempt, okay? I get no replies, nothing. It was a black hole, so I nicknamed them the secret police, okay? And basically, I used to say that's the first known secret police since Nazi Germany, they're highly, highly illegal because police can't just drive down the road and think, oh, I'm going to go break in that house because they want to. You just can't do, they can't do that. That's all there is to it. There was a murder attempt at my house. I was hunted like an animal and shot and left for dead, and so I had, I started making these videos. They became world famous. Literally tens of thousands of views on these videos. End up offering a $2,000 reward. First time in the history of America, a crime victim offered a reward to identify police. 6 years goes by, death threats, repeated break-ins in my house, and people come to me going, I'd sell that home if I was you, because they're trying to terrorize me into selling my property, because it is rigged, just like I said, it is connected to multiple murders. There's an underground home in the backyard where they're having whole show parties where they murdered a little girl, etc. Okay. And so in 2018, a private investigator, Empire Private Investigations, collected the $2,000 reward money and identified all 11 of the secret police. It was incredible, okay? First one that showed up was a sheriff from a whole nother county. It's right here. He was on video, John Woodward from Martin County. That's never been explained, but, it's real obvious that he was under my home when I was shot. Now we know that there was police officers under my home, and it was somebody under my home that had shot me, okay, by surprise, okay. And two of them that were recognized were the two women, Rosie Rodriguez and April Chandler, as a detective and a police officer. The highest ranking one that we know was Tony Dickey. He was actually inside my home, per the police report, 4 minutes after they were seen arriving, and he wasn't seen arriving. And that's what proved that he come into my home from the underground trap door from where I'd been shot from. Actually, 5 officers: Davis, Dickey, Chadwell, Angel, and Hale. Okay. Marty Barrett, crime scene investigator. That's incredible in itself if we're thinking about a crime scene investigator has been tampered with evidence. How many murders has this guy worked on? How many times has he tampered with evidence? How many people are in prison that are innocent? It's just incredible. That counts for all of them, And so lots of stories here, Naylor's now dead. Simpson and his wife's dead. So you got 2 secret police dead, whole bunch of stories. This here, though, is about Matt Davis. This video is bragging about stealing evidence, okay? Here, in 2018, 6 years later, these were the names of the 11 police that were identified by Empire Private Investigations, okay? And I'm going to show you here, and I put right here, 6 of them had their name missing from the police report. And remember, I said there wasn't a police report. I wasn't given the police report because in 2019, 7 years later, I found out there was a police report all along that I didn't know about, that they had illegally withheld. It had been subpoenaed, they were in direct violation violation of the judge's orders of the courts and withheld that police report. Why did they do it? Because it was incriminating. It incriminated the police in this premeditated capital murder attempt. That's why they withheld it. Okay, and that's what caused the secret police, is because I didn't have the report. So when I got the police report, that's when I noticed 6 of the names are illegally omitted. That's felonies, more felonies. Timestamp 5 police officers being added in my home that I said a minute ago, and that's how they knew they were under my home. Okay. The first one dispatched was April Chandler per the police report, and the second one was Matt Davis, and that's who we're going to talk about here. And probably the first one listed as being at my house, along with that Lieutenant Dickey, was Matt Davis. So that just gives you a little history on the secret police, the criminal secret police. Okay, here's my Facebook post. MPD Sargent Matt Davis was bragging and admitted to stealing evidence in this capital murder attempt. Well, that's a pretty big accusation, don't you think? I think so. Okay, I want to show you here. Okay, this was evidence that I told the police about at the hospital. The nurse documented me saying, "I have proof. Just go look. There's proof." And that is what they did. They came to my home and stole the proof. Matt Davis wrote this on my YouTube channel, bragging about stealing evidence. Okay, so this was here in November 2019. Matthew Davis, with his picture, writes on my YouTube channel, "I stole the evidence and nobody will ever find out, buddy." That's what I'm talking about right there. Is that Matt Davis is, bragging, a police officer is bragging about stealing evidence in a premeditated capital murder attempt, bragging about it, okay? Nobody's ever been arrested. I live under the threat of death, and thousands of crimes have been committed against me, okay? I'm going to go to the next comment. ER nurse Cresswell, this is at the hospital, documented me telling MPD Detective Rosie Rodriguez, "I have proof. Just go look. There is proof." I want to show you that. This is the nurse's notes, and the nurse's notes kind of messed them up because it was going to be my word against their word, but they didn't realize the nurse was documenting what I was saying. So all of a sudden now it's not my word against a whole group of lying, dirty cops, okay? Because that's what was going to happen, is a whole group of lying, dirty cops involved in a premeditated home invasion, capital attempted murder were lying, right? But thank God for this emergency room nurse, Cresswell. And this is time stamped here. I'll show you. That's 11:27. I had crawled out at 10:42. That's less than an hour after I had survived this. Somehow, God had saved my life and then crawled out to survive this murder attempt. And and she's documenting me saying there's sirens going off. The alarms kept going off. That's because burglar alarms going off in my attic. And I was under a home invasion. That's what I'm saying. But the police, they had a whole nother story. Buddy said he was locking up for a night, knocked his gun over. So they literally wrote that, not realizing that the nurse had documented what I had actually said, was that I was under a home invasion, okay? And then the nurse, more documented at 12:03, says, "I was talking on a white voice recorder in case something happens to me and saying what they were doing in my house. I have proof. Just go look. There's proof," okay? And this was with telling the detective, Rosie Rodriguez, was in the emergency room at the time. It's time stamped right here. Look at the time stamps. Rosie Rodriguez, Detective Rodriguez has patient's necklace, states she's going to give it to his brother. That was a weird comment. I wondered if Rodriguez knows my brother, And then here's the badge number. I think this nurse, she was getting that badge number of Detective Rodriguez, knowing something real fishy was going on here. And it was, The point of this I'm making is that, I told the police, I have proof. Just go look. There's proof. There's a voice recorder. The voice recorder recorded the burglar alarms going off, proving that I was shot during home invasion. Keep in mind, the police were saying that I had accidentally shot myself, and I'm crazy. That was the police's story. The proof was a voice recorder that recorded the burglar alarms going off my attic before I was shot, which proved that I was shot during a home invasion. Officer Chandler said that she found the voice recorder and it was checked into evidence, but that was another lie. And now, all these years later, I bet I have 100 videos of burglar alarms going off in my attic, at least, multiple different systems, including a Vivint alarm system. I saw a young Hispanic guy in my attic, And so here's what earlier, the nurse's notes, but I want to show you here from the police report. Okay, this is the informational report, Midland, Texas Police Department. This was started by Matt Davis just about an hour after I'm shot in April Chandler's narrative. April Chandler, she's talking, okay? One of the secret police says Buddy had a .22 rifle in the bedroom by the bed that was taken for safekeeping and logged into MPD evidence, as well as a single-shot revolver and the voice recorder from the closet. So Chandler found the voice recorder and said it was checked into evidence. There's a picture of what the voice recorder looked like. It's actually gone. I've never seen it since. Police stole it. It's what happened. Okay. Now I want to show you here. Officer April Chandler stated she found my voice recorder along with my two .22 guns, and they were checked into evidence. As seen here, Matt Davis, that's who we're talking about here, the one bragging about stealing evidence, checked in the two .22 guns, but he did not check in the voice recorder. It looks like Chandler had given this evidence to Matt Davis and he stole it. Okay, so this is from that information report. It's from, you see Matt Davis's name, and P250 is Chandler's number right here, and you can see the property summary. Here's the two .22s, and that's what I noticed, that the voice recorder was not in the evidence logs. That's where I started calling them out, saying the police stole evidence in a murder attempt. Evidence that I had told them about. It's documented that I had told them about this evidence, this proof of this murder attempt, and the police stole it. Okay. I made a big point of the police stealing evidence that I told them about. So 2 years later, or somewhere around there, they scribbled out one piece of evidence and hand wrote in voice recorder. I kid you not. Okay. And so this wasn't into 2019, 2020. I sent in an information request and I said, I want to see the voice recorder because Chandler says it was checked into evidence, because I knew it wasn't in evidence because I had the evidence logs. And City Attorney Gates sends me the evidence logs right here, and they literally scribbled out with a pen. They scribbled out one piece of evidence. Oh, that's not there no more. They just scribbled that out and hand wrote in voice recorder. I kid you not. I kid you not. That's what they did. It shows it here. April Chandler checking in. Also here, these are late check-ins. Matthew Davis had my keys. And the other big deal was the shotgun shells, because I made a point of there's no empty shotgun shell in evidence. And if I had been shot with my gun, as they were falsely claiming, then there would have been an empty shotgun shell in my gun and checked into evidence. Okay. And so, once again, after the fact, because I had made a point of it, they come in and put empty shotgun shells and then hand wrote it in here. Okay. But let me tell you what, this was done by Matthew Davis. Okay. My gun was picked up by CSI Marty Barrett, and Marty Barrett checked in the 4 live shells from inside the gun. Okay, that anybody who knows anything about them pump shotguns, that if I had shot myself with that gun, the empty shell would have been in the chamber of that gun, and Barrett would have had to get it out before he could get to the live shells that were in the gun. Barrett would have checked in, and that's why I said that Barrett, the CSI, did not check in an empty shotgun shell, and this empty shotgun shell come in after the fact. It was after I called them out, after finding evidence, catching them here tampering with evidence in this capital murder attempt. They hand wrote it in. You can't get more dirty than this. Because remember, this is a premeditated home invasion, capital attempted murder, and it looks like I'm the next guy after the last guy. Looks like they killed the guy that lived here before me. About a week after the protective order hearing in December 2013, Matt Davis quit the police force and went to work for National Oil Well. I wondered if his supervisors had figured out that he was involved in this premeditated capital attempted murder, and also wondered if that oil company had people at the oil show parties. I found this on the internet just doing a search for Matt Davis, and it showed me he worked for National Oil Well Varco, okay? And I knew it was him. It says Sergeant Detective, and I looked at the timestamp, and when it looked like it said he quit in December 2013. Well, that was when the protective order hearing happened. Now, remember that protective order, I just thought was absurd, right? The ex-wife files a protective order on me when I hadn't seen her, talked to her in a year and a half, and she lived 100 miles away. And what happened was her and her lifelong childhood friend, Detective Rosie Rodriguez, both get up there under oath and testify that I'm delusional. In court, I get a lifetime protective order. And then a week later, Matt Davis quits the police force. And during this case is when it was brought out that the former boyfriend of the ex-wife was documented as saying that he believed that she had a lot to do with the shooting from the things he heard her say, and she threatened to have him killed too. That was entered as evidence in that protective order hearing, and Matt Davis quit the week afterwards. Okay, that's why I'm saying I wondered if his supervisors figured out that he was involved in this capital attempted murder, and that's why he quit. And then he goes to work for an oil company, and I wonder, I feel sure that National has an oil booth at the oil show. I just wonder if they had people at the underground oil show parties. We had 4 mutual Facebook friends from my hometown of Hobbs, New Mexico, and many friends of friends. That may explain why 99% of my hometown friends never share my story when I'm the crippled victim of a home invasion and capital murder attempt with lots of proof. Okay, and I'm looking at Matt Davis's Facebook, and I'm going, wow, look at all these people from my hometown of Hobbs, New Mexico. Dusty Robinson, Scott Capps, known him all my life, Robbie Robinson, Jacob Boydston, and then look at here, the 29 mutual friends, 36 mutual friends, 25 mutual friends, just all over the place, and she used to be on my Facebook friends list. I remember her, and now gone. So Matt Davis looks like he has a connection back to my hometown of Hobbs, New Mexico. When I finally got to see the police report for the night of the murder attempt 7 years later, I saw where Matt had tried to call my ex-wife twice. This made me wonder if they knew each other beforehand and or if they were working together. Okay, I took the long police report that was come in 7 years later, and I just parsed out everything for Matt Davis's name, and that's what we're looking at. We're looking at just Matt Davis. Okay, and it starts with when the call came in from the 7-Eleven. This Kevin Turner supposedly was in the car next to me. I pulled up. I was shot, saying call 911. Okay. Dispatch, Matt Davis. He was like the second person dispatched, okay? And then here he's on scene right here at 11:58. He's all timestamped. And then he's at my home at 11 o'clock. Okay, it's changed location going to my home. And then he's at my home at 11:03. Now, keep in mind that Woodward and Naylor were seen at my home at 11:01. And Davis is at my home at 11:03, but he's not seen on the cameras. That's what I was talking about. Naylor and Woodward were there. Martin County Sheriff, Woodward, and then former Midland Sheriff Naylor, that's now dead. They were the first to arrive, and they are seen on camera. Nat Davis is there 2 minutes later, and he's not seen. Okay, and then he's the one that started this investigation report right there, because he's a sergeant. And then we're also seeing where he's referencing here X-refs, and I've got a video about that a long time ago called 22 seconds, because in 22 seconds he made all these references to over a year's worth of different, like it was pre-planned, and then that's what was my whole point, that I thought it was pre-planned. But here's what I was talking about. Tried to contact ex-wife, completed on previous calls, no answer with 2 attempts. So within an hour after I'm ambushed and shot, and remember, I'm separated from the ex-wife, and she's supposedly living in Lubbock at the time, and here's Matt Davis trying to call my ex-wife. How did Matt, he somehow knew that ex-wife. I thought that was real fishy. And as I said a minute ago, her boyfriend says that he believes she's involved in the shooting. And Matt Davis was one of the 5 officers that we now know entered my home from the now removed trap door that had been ambushed and shot from. I wonder if he was the shooter, aka would-be killer. Okay, and so I don't know who the shooter was. I just know, we have proof showing I wasn't shot with my gun. We know somebody under my home shot me. We know a whole bunch about multiple people documented saying underground homes and tunnels are here. And we know that the 5 police officers were at or in my home, and they wasn't seen arriving. And we know that Lieutenant Dickey was inside my home at 11:05. Now keep in mind that 11:01 Woodward and Naylor were out front, caught on camera, and Dickey's in my house and he wasn't seen on camera. That's how we knew that's how I know they came in from under my home. Actually, I suspect that Dickey and Davis, that's who came over to my house together. They're the ones that let the trap burglar out of that bathroom, and I wondered if they didn't use the trap burglar as an excuse to try to murder me. They were working with the burglars that I had been reporting to the police, and I was shot during a burglary, which makes this a capital crime because it was done during the commission of a felony, and the felony was the burglary of a habitation, okay? Because that's what the crimes I had been reporting and still going on. So I've showed this before, basically just between the timestamps on the camera, the timestamps on the police report, and it's showing that these 5 officers, Dickie, Chadwell, Angel, Hale, Davis, were in or at my home and not seen arriving. And so real possible. But, let's don't kid yourself. I also suspect that Woodward and Naylor were also under my home. They just drove around front, and probably Rodriguez that met me at the 7-Eleven and then lied and said she wasn't there, and maybe Chandler too, right? Who knows how many other ones wasn't even caught on camera that were under my home. Okay. Next one. His Facebook post says that you pronounce his name fuck you. I wonder if that is for everybody or just the citizens that report crime to the Midland police. Okay. I just took a print screen of, Matt Davis's Facebook here a few years ago, and I just saw that, what a nice guy, right? This guy here, of course, he's not a police officer anymore, but absolutely 100% involved in the premeditated capital attempted murder of my life. If covering up evidence, still in evidence, bragging about it. In February 2020, I saw where Matt Davis clicked like on this Facebook post about an investigation by the Texas Rangers into the Midland Sheriff Department, and I wondered if this was connected to the crimes and murders at my home. I thought that was interesting, okay? And so this is a huge news story here from Midland. The Texas Rangers were investigating our Sheriff Department. Now, keep in mind, Joe Lozano was secretly recorded. Sheriff candidate Joe Lozano was recorded saying that our late Sheriff Gary Painter used to hide out in the underground homes. Well, I was shot by somebody under my home. Okay. And then here in 2020, they had, the Texas Rangers were doing an investigation into the Midland Sheriff Department. 5 of them end up leaving. I saw where Matt Davis clicked like on that. It made me wonder if this investigations by the Rangers in the Sheriff Department wasn't really connected back to the crimes at my house and the crimes and murders associated with the underground homes. I don't know that, nobody was ever arrested. As stated here, 5 people, the Midland Sheriffs were using equipment they have to monitor cell phone calls, and I wondered if my phone was one of the ones being monitored. Okay, and there was one of the deputies for the Sheriff Department sued, and I think sued McKinney, who was the chief deputy who ran for sheriff, whatever, because they listened to her phone call 249 times or something like that. They had this machine, they just put in your phone number, they listened to your phone calls. Well, there was other people they were listening to it, but of course, our press didn't tell it. Police didn't release the information, but obviously they were listening to a whole bunch of other people's phone calls, and I long suspected my phone was one of them phone calls. So when I called up and said, I'm going to do this and do that, or I set up an appointment with a private investigator, I set up an appointment with a doctor, whatever, they know in advance because they were listening to my phone calls. I don't have proof of that, but I've suspected that. Texas Rangers opened criminal investigation in the Midland County Sheriff Department. Once again, nobody was ever arrested, And here, unlawful interception of oral electronic communication reported October 3rd, 2019. Okay, abuse of official capacity, tampering with government records, theft, etc. Okay, and so this will tell you more about that investigation and all that. I'm gonna close that out. Y'all can read about that later if you want. 5 sheriff employees due to this investigation. One of them was Roy McKinney, who was running for sheriff against Kreiner, had left the sheriff's department. Senior investigator Margarita Strahan, had been to my home one day, and she left too. Okay, so that's what I was saying when I looked at the names of the people that left due to that investigation by the Texas Rangers. One of them I knew I could tie into connected to my house. I suspected McKinney was too. I just didn't see, I never had any proof or seen his name on any reports tying him to my home. Okay. And so 2 employees already left and 3 more were going to resign, basically. Okay, so they did the investigation and nothing happened. Okay, that's typical, right? And nobody's arrested, whatever, And so here's the names and the story, and y'all can read up about that later if you want. Okay, but one thing I want to show you here. A hometown friend named Rhonda Ainsworth White that lives here in Midland one day called a welfare check on me because I had left my home for a few hours to go see my mom's gravesite in Hobbs, and Strahan was one of the officers at my home while I was gone. I thought that was real fishy that I'm gone for a few hours. It's an hour and a half drive to Hobbs. I drove from here, met my dad, had lunch, we went and seen my mom's grave, and I drove back. And while I was gone, Rhonda Ainsworth White calls the police and they come to my my home, right? And I find out after the fact, I think they were wanting to come inside my home while I was gone, but I'd left my blinds open. Rhonda later called me and she asked me, why did you leave your blinds open? Because the police didn't come in my home because they could see in my home that I wasn't here, or they would have broke into my home that day. And I think Rhonda worked for Apache. I wonder what Rhonda knows about the underground parties and if Apache had people at the underground oil show parties, okay? This is a police report when it happened in October 2012. That's my mom's birthday. Okay, that's why I went over there. Here's Rhonda White calls the police to my house because I haven't been on Facebook since early yesterday. I was literally gone for a few hours. But the point I want to make is Margarita Strahan, one of them officers that left in that investigation, then she was one of the ones at my house that day, And there's a whole story about my mom. That's a whole nother story where my mom died with still unanswered questions the month before I'm ambushed and shot. I've long suspected that I'm going to find out what really happened to my mom once we once we saw what's going on in Midland. In July of this year, I saw where Matt Davis asked a question on the Midland Odessa scanner group about a murder suspect they were looking for in my neighborhood, and I wondered if this was connected to the crimes and murders at my home. Okay, so I always key on anything I see Matt Davis involved in because this guy's directly connected, as far as I'm concerned, into the capital murder attempt of my life. So this is dated July 21, and they had the streets blocked off. This was on Fairgate. I live on Fair Circle. This is the Fairmont Park neighborhood, all these fair names here. And, so this is right, it's right here in my neighborhood, and they're looking for, a murder suspect or whatever. And I noticed Matt Davis asked about it. It made me wonder if the guy they were looking for had a connection to my home. I didn't know that. And so, anyways, amazing here. Police officer bragging about stealing evidence in a capital attempted murder in Midland, Texas. Talk to you later.